Go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. We are going to be talking this week about America's identity. We're going to be talking about race relations between uh, people of different races and how we look at each other, how we view each other, how we view this country. And we have some back and forth questions that I'm going to exchange with Lamar about to kind of preview what this show is going to be all about. So you had some questions for me, Lamar, and then I gave my answers, and then I had some response questions to you um, about about the questions. So unmute yourself, sir.
I'm going
There
to
you go.
preface this with a question
Yes.
prior to going into these questions. And this is for everyone. This is not pointing toward one group of people or not. Why do we get mad when we talk about race relations? Why do we get angry? I'm not talking about anger, I'm not talking about discussing a particular incident, just the conversation that me and you are about to have. We're not talking about anything in particular unless it comes within the question. We could during our dialogue, but the questions are just random questions. But I'm going to start with this one, and this is like this is a what's the word you want to? This is like a 2x4 to the head with some people, man. They cannot stand this question.
Really?
I know every time I've had this conversation, it's like I have people right now. If I have one of these terms in a Facebook post, they will not even look at it anymore. They won't even.
Okay. Really?
They'll skip
People
right
must
over.
be people must be very defensive. People are so defensive. I
Yeah,
must not
why?
be that way.
Yeah, I mean, which
That's a
is
good question. I mean, why do we get so angry? We want to talk about race. Okay, we're going to talk about race. Why
yeah,
does that get people in an uproar? Why does that get people mad? Why does that
oh,
people
man.
get their panties in a bind? As they said, my dad said that.
Yeah. Well, see, if I've had before, I had people tell me, "Oh, because you're talking." Like when I tell people about you, Darren, they say, "Well, you guys are both liberal. You think the same way." I said, "Well, I don't use those terms. I'm not
Not
liberal.
really.
I'm not like that." I said, but I've had this conversation with people from all spectrums, from
Huh. Okay.
political sides, economic status, positions of power with working within the government. I've had this conversation with every type of person you can imagine. And these same exact type of questions I'm asking you.
Okay.
And so anyway, the
Shoot it.
first one I
Shoot.
have for you is,
Go.
what do you think of what do you think of when you, Darren Harvey, hear the term white supremacy, white America, or white privilege?
Okay. So those three things are three different things to me. I think of white supremacy as the minority, the ugly minority, like KKK, white power groups of various kinds, Proud Boys, that kind of thing, like we saw at Charlottesville with the tiki lamp torches. That's kind of ugly. Like um, that's easy to separate yourself from. I think white America, for me, when you say white America, I'm not really sure what you're talking about, but my answer would be that it's kind of like a small towny sort of comfortable existence, like a Norman Rockwell sort of painting, where you're sort of, if you grow up in that environment, you're kind of ignorant of the outside world. You're ignorant of some things that go on in just in different neighborhoods, even sometimes in other countries. You don't know what's going on with other cultures necessarily. You're kind of in a comfortable bubble, white America. If you say white America, the one thing that I would define as white America is that you're in some sort of comfortable bubble. When you say white privilege, that's something that white people enjoy, whether we know it or not. It's something that we've grown up with, that we've had an advantage on. There's those memes where you see where you have different starting lines. So we have a different starting line. So we have had some advantages that other people do not have. And so even if it's not to say that white people don't work hard, but when you look at the numbers, when you look at the averages, when you look at like the wealth, statistics in this country, that's definitely true. So I think that's what white privilege is something that is it's a starting line. So that's how I define it. You could talk about those three things though for a long time though. I think they're kind of different. I mean, they're related, of course. I just
Right.
think they're very,
Right.
um, very different. I mean, I'm not. I would definitely say I'm not a white supremacist, but I did grow up in a kind of white America
Mhm,
because of my culture.
mhm.
Um, just because of the way you grow up, and I think a lot of people have done that. And I've I've been someone that has had some privilege.
Okay.
So
Well,
how do you define these three things as someone who is black, someone who's African American?
well, I look at white supremacy. I look at it from a perspective of I don't believe everyone has that type of complex at all. I don't believe it's. I think it's a small group of people to have that, but it goes all the way back to the start of our country. It goes back to a point where that was a fact and a reality that white
Hmm.
supremacy was real and it was truth in America. Now the thing about it is that after we go through years of change, that perspective is still ingrained in people.
Hmm. Hmm.
There's this perspective of not only superior to black people, but superior to everyone who's not like them.
Hmm.
Now, and what made it really come full circle for me with just that term, white supremacy, was Charlottesville.
Okay.
That was one where I want to hear somebody really explain to me what does it mean you won't replace me or you won't replace us.
I don't
Um,
know. I don't know, to
that
be
was
honest.
something that bothered me to the core because who are
Hmm.
we and who are us? Who are you
Hmm.
referring to as we or us and you?
Right.
What were those pronouns defining? Who were you talking to? Who were you talking about? Who's replacing you?
I would
So
say that us is they're talking about white people. That's what they're talking about. Us.
but but
That's
but
us.
but do we really know? Is it something
No.
we
No.
take the assumption? But when you have these conversations, because there was a lot of people who defended the Unite the Right rally,
Right.
the people defended that rally. So who were you defending and why? So anyway, that's one particular thing. So I feel that people still have that particular mindset. And the thing about it, the people that have it today weren't living back then. Where did they get that mindset from? So it's ingrained, it's part of their family, it's part of their culture, it's part of who they are around. You we resemble who we are around. We act like we act like the people that we are around the most.
Okay.
So when it comes to white America, it's the things that we just accept. When I say accept, it could be a time where you ask young people, just like I said, just to casually walking down the street. Um, and the thought that in your mind, you're thinking of all the what ifs as you're going down the street. What if the police suspect me for something? What if
Hmm.
this white lady with her purse thinks I might want to rob her? Do I look like I'm a criminal right now? Am I walking in a way that does not make me look guilty of something or suspicious? The privileges, I don't think you walk down the street with that thought. I don't think you walk into a store making sure that you don't have anything that makes you look suspicious. Is it the clothing? Is it because you have a backpack or you're dressed a certain way? I had this shirt on that the Blackout 2020 T-shirt on.
Hmm.
Where were me? When we were grocery shopping the other day, and I had it on with a jacket. I wear the shirt, a lot, especially when I'm doing business with a black business or I'm seeking out black businesses. I wear my Blackout 2020. But we were in the store, and I had my firearm on me, so I had it concealed under my shirt. But people noticed, something. But I had my jacket on because the t-shirt it covers where it was at, but you can still see it printing. You can see it. You may be able to see it through your t-shirt. I
Okay.
took my jacket off and had it in the grocery cart because I was hot. This guy looked at the shirt more than he saw my gun. It was like he's eyeballing me for the shirt. Like reading, like what is like he didn't say anything, but
Interesting.
his face was
So
like focus on that. So anyway, go ahead. You had a question?
no, I mean I have a lot of follow-up questions that we could talk about tomorrow,
Okay.
like
Okay.
beginning with like European colonialism and about this. I want to know about like Make
Well,
America Great.
well
I
what
want to
I want to
know. I want to know about Make America Great Again. I want to know about like what your perception of that slogan is, and how it might be different from the typical. Well, not to say it, but the typical Trump voter,
yeah.
um, or the typical white person. Do we have different views of what makes America great? Do we have
Well,
different views of what makes America great as a white person, as a black person, as an Asian American person, as a Native American person, as a
well,
Hispanic American person?
what did you think of the
Would make
phrase?
us great?
What did you think?
What would make us great?
What did you think of the term when you first heard MAGA stood for Make America Great Again? What was your first thought when you heard that?
My first thought was, when was America? What time was that exactly? Because pick a date. You're going to find something wrong, something seriously wrong with America during that time. Was it the 80s? Was it the 50s? When was that? Was it the 20s? You're going to find a lot of things wrong with whatever time period you're going to pick out. So to me, it was kind of a head scratcher.
Well, why is it that it's just really weird that you have that perspective? And I've talked to at least over 100 people about that term
Wow.
alone.
Okay,
Just
we
that
should
term.
talk about this tomorrow then.
Yeah.
I think that'd be
For the last 4 years, I've talked about that particular term, and
Mhm.
I have yet to get a real good answer. It's just I feel that many of us, I think many of us are always cautious about race because we don't know how the other person is going to respond. And I've always
Yes.
used it, but
Yes.
it's just that if we just take the time to intentionally want to learn about other people. I mean, I
Right.
was watching a city council meeting today for my community, and I had sort of a little bit of I thought about something for a minute because I know the guy that's running for city council, one of the seats, and this
Right.
was his town hall, and
Right.
we've had some good talks. And I looked at the panel; it was like him and 5 other people,
Uh-huh.
and they were guest panelists. And I don't know why particularly he had these panelists there per se. Maybe they were just friends or supporters. But I'm like, where is that diverse group of supporters that you may have? Why aren't they represented here? So I let that pass through. But at the very end, I was so pleased to watch the whole town hall because
Okay.
one of my questions was to the candidate was, how are you going to encourage the citizens of our community who are resistant to the growth and change that are happening right now? How are you going to encourage them? And he was saying that because he's been here all his life, he would encourage them. But then one of the panelists said, we have to make an effort really to support those that are marginalized and are treated different.
Yes.
Those that
Yes.
are coming here because they want a new opportunity. They're moving
Yes.
to this community because they know that there's plenty of growth. The community is growing and everybody wants to get in on this new growth. And some people came, I mean, really, I felt this apprehension when we first moved out here. Before we moved, I came out, looked at it. I loved the area. But my first thought is, man, are they going to accept me out here? So I would drive around the community. We come out every week. We'll ride around the community just to see what the neighbors look like. Really, honestly, because
Okay.
I'm not going to invest in a home if it's not
That's
well
interesting.
represented.
Okay.
So that was what I did, really, honestly. And then I went and asked people. Man, I saw a black guy walking his dog. I was driving my car. I said, "Hey, man, how you doing?" He was like, "Fine." I said, "I'm about to get a house built over here." And I told him, I said, "What is it like?" He said, "Oh, it's really nice." I said, "No, like, bro, what is it really like living out here?"
Okay.
He was like, "I know where you're going." And he's like, "No, man, it's really cool. You ain't gonna have no problems." I said, "Really?" He's like, "No, it's a really good community."
And have you? Have you?
I haven't had any problems, no, but
Okay.
I know that there is some tension with growth and the diversity that's moving out here from people who have been here their whole life.
Okay.
But
That's a conversation I'd like to have about diversity, about like why people feel threatened when new people move in. Why is that? That's actually a good thing. If people wanted to move into my neighborhood, if people wanted to come to my church, if more people wanted to move into my neighborhood, my community, isn't that a good thing?
Well, people say
Why do we feel threatened about that? Why do we feel threatened?
Stereotypes. People say black people move into a community, they're going to tear it up.
But it doesn't matter. Any people, young people.
But I'm just saying, this is what I hear. That black people will bring the value down, and then you have Hispanic people come in, and they'll have like so many people living in a house. That's still a stereotype.
Yeah.
Okay. You hear all these different stereotypes, and they're not real. You got to look at every situation. You got to look at why these circumstances happen. If you say, well, they bring the property value down, what's going on in that community that the property value is down? Isn't that because people move in there? What services aren't being provided? What's not happening that bring that value down? So
what's the next question here then?
Oh man, we go on and on with one question.
I know.
This is a good one here, man. This is a good one. I think we talked about this a little bit. Maybe you can understand. Are you able to accept an apology? Hold on. As of today, white males are being criticized, or white America is being criticized for saying things currently and in their past that are considered racist or privileged.
Yes. This is true in some cases. You see like something come on the news, like a politician or a celebrity might have said something 20 years ago, 15 years ago, might have had a tweet, like an old tweet. And now, they're being called out on it. They say, hey, what's up with this? And an apology is issued. Biden is an example of this, as we've talked about with his policies in the 90s about the crime bill. And, he has since come out and admitted his mistakes about that. So, I think of the generation before me, my parents, my aunts and uncles. I know that they have said a lot of things in the past. Even when I was a kid, they used to say some things like, that really kind of raised my eyebrows, like, wow, really? And then I see them today, like 20, 30 years later, and they are totally changed. Well, it's taken some time. It's taken some time where people, like me or their family members to work on them, or to just have them view reality and view the community around them, and to understand the truth about the history of America, these types of things. So, I don't know what it was about the generation before me, something about the way they were raised. I don't know what it was, but they used to say some things that would be like, wow, really? And I think that they now have a better understanding of reality. And I think that's a good thing. I think that, we need to allow people to change. Sometimes we do that in society. Sometimes we do that as a culture, sort of collectively. We allow people to change. We allow people to say, I'm sorry, I was wrong. And then we accept them. We actually embrace that. Sometimes we can't. Sometimes we can't accept that. And sometimes, I think race is one of those sensitive issues that, somebody said something that was in the least bit perceived as racist, then they might be blackballed, and that's too bad. And I think we need to make room for people to say, you know what, I'm wrong. I was wrong.
Yeah. Do you think that right now that, like black people could say something, maybe able to say something or say it in a way that white people will get probably criticized for? Is that racist? Or showing privilege to black people?
I don't know. I'm not sure if I've heard anything like that. To be
like
honest.
A black person could say the N-word, but if a white person say it, it's a racist term.
I can understand that. I mean, if you're talking about somebody, I can understand that. If it's different coming from a white person, it just is. It just is. I mean, I don't really think that it's a positive to say that in any context for anybody to say that. I don't think, but
Right.
I'm not really here to judge, but I know that in music, and a lot of times, they'll say that,
Yeah.
and I don't think it's appropriate at all at any time,
Right. Right.
to say that. Um, but it's just different coming from somebody that isn't African American. It just is.
Right. So a reason why I asked that question is because that not just that, but it's other things that if because you'll see where the conversation will start where a person can do something, a black person could do something, and then a white person could do something, and the white person would be criticized for it. And
Okay.
not even saying that. I started with that question first about the N word because that's like out there in your face. That's like the most prominent one that causes controversy.
Right.
But
Well,
this other thing,
there's a historical thing though
yeah,
about
but
that
it's
makes it a racist thing.
well, but I'm saying I'm not even. I use that as the first example because there's other things, and what happens is that I've heard people turn around and say that's reverse racism, and I'm like, what is reverse racism? What does that mean? What is
Uh,
that?
what is reverse racism? I don't know if that's a thing or not. I think that it is a thing, but I think it's a minor thing. I don't think
No,
that
but how can it be? How can you have something like that? How can you have reverse racism?
maybe that's the wrong term for it. But I mean, if somebody's going to be, um, if I'm going to be prejudiced because of my race, no matter what race it is, then that's racist. So
Well, the reason why I say that,
if someone's going to have such a negative attitude towards me because of my race, then it's racist regardless of whatever race I am.
see, does it
It's
Bob
not really reverse, I guess.
like you gave me an example of something that happened to you before,
Right.
and it's like that had no power in it. When I say it didn't have any power in it, because that particular situation doesn't affect you in a sense. It may affect you emotionally, but you know that that's a minority situation. That
Yes.
situation
Yes.
when that happened to you, probably one out of 50 times
Right.
that would happen to you.
That's
So
exactly right. So it's
you flip that, and it's going to be maybe one out of 3 to 5 times for a person of
exactly.
color. So
That's exactly right. And that's why um I think that it's a minor thing. So
yeah,
I mean, white people might have a story in their life where they were passed up for a loan or a scholarship or for some opportunity because there was some equal person of color who also applied for the same job or
yeah,
whatever or got the promotion, and oh, then they will be offended. But what they have to understand is exactly what you said, is the frequency. Now,
well,
how
also,
often is that going to be happening in your life,
yeah.
compared to somebody of color?
Is there a false narrative or a true narrative that when a white person is turned down for a affirmative action job, turned down because a black person got it for affirmative action? The times I've heard that the white person has said that the black person was less qualified. The times I've seen it happen, it was the opposite. The black person was highly qualified.
I haven't experienced that myself.
Yeah,
I
I mean, I've
haven't
heard people say
experienced
it.
being passed up for a job or promotion by somebody because of affirmative action, or it, you know, if I
I
did,
don't know.
then I'm ignorant of it, and it's okay because things worked out for me.
How would
To
they
be
know
honest,
it's affirmative action unless it was a poster going around
you
saying this job is for affirmative action? How would you know?
you wouldn't know unless you knew who got hired to the job that you applied for, or
Right.
you knew them personally, so you wouldn't know. I mean, most of the time you wouldn't know, and to be honest, um, if it happened to me, then so be it. Then things worked out for me the way they were supposed to work out for me.
Right.
To be honest, like I said, I've been given more opportunity than not.
Right. I agree. I have too. I've been given a lot of opportunities.
So,
Yeah.
um, so, and that could be, and a lot of that is because I'm a white male.
Yeah.
I'm a straight white male. So, those that are not probably will be experience uh, more discrimination.
So
It
how do
just
you
is.
counter people?
It's just statistically reality.
So how do you deal with someone who what you just said and someone who looks just like you will disagree? How do you go about that conversation? If I was a person that looked just like you and I said, Darren, that's not true.
Well, it takes patience. I think that it takes um, it's going to take a lot of patience. If somebody's been hurt so badly that their business was passed over by some government contract, and it ended up to be pretty significant. I don't know what it is. That they chose a minority business instead, and their business floundered or failed. Then they might have a lot of resentment.
Yeah.
Somebody might have a lot of resentment about that. And I guess my answer would be that you listen to them and you validate their story. You know what? I'm sorry about that.
Yeah.
Um, my in the back of my mind, though, I'm always thinking that, well, why not try something else?
Right.
If it didn't work out for you to do this particular business or this particular job, then try something else. That's what I've done. So I don't know that these things aren't perfect, but I think that affirmative action had a reason to exist in this country.
Isn't it pretty? Would you say it's fair to say that if a white person wanted to go to an all black college,
Hmm.
that they can get in with affirmative action?
Sure.
No, there was a guy that went to I think it was Bethune Cookman. He was a kicker, and he was from somewhere in the Middle East, and he came over and got a full ride as a kicker on
Okay.
the football team, and it was affirmative action. He got in, and tuition was paid and everything.
Okay.
And so, I mean,
Uh,
it can happen, but think about it is what's the odds of a white person wanting to get a full ride scholarship to an all black college? Like
I say I
Howard
I
is a great
say
college.
I would say that's fair
Yeah, I mean,
because, as you said, what are the odds of that? For one thing, he's an immigrant, so that it's not like he's somebody of privilege anyway. I don't think.
right. But I mean, but still, though, I mean, he was able to get in. You know, sorry about that. He was able to get in. For with affirmative action. But I'm saying is that a white person could do the same thing. And there are some great black colleges out there. Like Howard is one of the best
Right.
HBCUs out there. And
Okay.
so there's a lot of good ones out there. And so that would be opportunities for people. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Especially if you're low on money, you're a white person and you don't have the finances to go to a major college, that would be a great opportunity.
Then I'd say that's fair. I
So
don't know how the historically black colleges operate, to be honest.
just like any other college. No
So
different.
then it would be fair.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, but the point I'm making is that there's like almost a stigmatism where you're not that's something that you may not want to do or you feel awkward doing that. Why? I mean, it's like it's a college. Is it because it's all black and you'll be the minority now? You're out of your comfort zone. The band is going to play something a little different. The choir is going to be a little different. So the thing about it is that
I don't know.
those
I
are
mean,
learning experiences.
it's probably the same reason why you don't see males applying to all female colleges. Not that those things are
And
kind
they,
of becoming. Those things are kind of becoming something of yesterday. I'm not sure how many all female colleges there are, but
yeah. Could a
um,
man go to an all female college?
I don't think so. But I mean, they already said that females the whole concept of all male colleges has gone
Yeah.
kaput.
Right.
So theoretically, someone could apply to an all female college. I'm trying to think of the name, but what did Hillary Clinton go to?
I don't know, man.
I forget that name of the college there, but that's
I-
that's one of the premier. I think it's still all female. So I
Is
mean,
it?
in theory, um, that boundary would be
Yeah.
something that would be something to
Yeah.
debate about and to converse about, I guess.
If anybody's watching, you want to chime in on the conversation, you could definitely post a comment. That would be great.
So the question I had for you then would you accept an apology for somebody that said something stupid 20 years ago?
Definitely, I would.
Okay.
Especially because that, to me, I'm all about conversation. So if that person, somebody said something to me that was wrong, or if I heard about it later, they said something wrong, and they apologized for it, and we had a conversation. We don't even have to have a conversation. They apologize. I accept.
That's
I
good.
accept it. I
That's
accept.
good.
I have no. When I saw the guy from Virginia with the blackface on, the issue that I had with him, I forgot the governor. Governor was what was his name? There was a governor of Virginia.
Virginia governor.
Yeah. So when he had the blackface on, then they had the guy in the Klan outfit.
Yeah.
He said, "I don't know which one is me. I don't know which one I am." That bothered me.
Yeah,
So,
because obviously he would have remembered that.
right.
I mean, that's something that you would remember.
And that was what 30, 40 years ago, maybe. I mean, he's probably 10 years older than we are. And
Yeah.
it's like
So that would have been in the
that?
70s, 80s, 70s, or
Right.
80s, maybe
So-
at the 80s, but
You didn't know that was bad then. Now, the flip side of that is this. You'll have someone say, well, black people have done it before. Eddie Murphy did like a whole white cast. He was Jewish, he was a white guy, and we laughed at it. And then you had did you see Tropical Thunder?
yeah,
Tropical Thunder,
Tropic Thunder, yeah,
Tropic Thunder, he dressed like a black guy with a fro,
yeah,
and nobody said anything. And then you have white girls with the Wayans brothers dressed like these two white girls. And so nowadays, that probably wouldn't go over too well,
no,
those
No.
shows. And I think that it's not that those type of characters don't bother me. Even Tropic Thunder, I thought that was an awesome role. I thought it was great in it. But what makes it so bad is when someone do what the governor did, dressed in a mockery type form,
right.
is what messes it all up. There's nothing wrong. I mean, you can't, like, if a person dressed like an Asian person right now, it would be called discriminate. It would be a discrimination case about it. If someone dressed in certain ways, then another thing that makes it so bad, you can go to movies. Now you can look at movies where, like every Bible movie you've seen, it's been all white cast, right? Right.
Yes, until recently, yes.
What was
That's
recent?
very true.
What was changed? What was recent?
Oh God, see, you're gonna put me on the spot of this.
Yeah,
I think
I
there
haven't
was
seen that one yet.
there was a movie called Nativity, I believe, that did use Middle Eastern actors
Okay.
and actresses. But it's actually a pretty good movie. It's a Christmas story, Nativity.
Right.
I believe that the most of those people, like Mary, Joseph, everybody like that, was Middle Eastern people.
Right.
But yeah, that's true about, like, you go back to the 80s, you go back to further to the 60s. All those Bible movies are white people.
Have you
And
seen
you're like,
the Black Nativity?
actually, I haven't. I know I should have seen it.
It's all by cast, yeah. So you look at that. So you look at these characters who've made tons of money playing characters that, and they were even did you see it's a new one coming out? And she had to paint her face. What's the new movie coming out? Is it Cleopatra? I think it is. Is it Cleopatra?
There's a Cleopatra movie coming out.
Yeah.
There's not many movies coming out right now.
No, it's a Cleopatra, I think. But
Okay.
anyway, so you would take a person. Why not put a person that fit the description? I'm not sure who that woman was that's going to be in the movie.
Yeah, I mean,
Get
find an
somebody that-
Egyptian person.
But see, they did. But see, the same thing. There was a lot of There was a lot of criticism about the Nina Simone movie that came out a year before last.
Okay.
What's the lady that played Colombiana? Did you see that one? Colombiana lady. She was like she grew
No.
up like an assassin, but she was like of South American descent. And you'll know the name, man. Zoe. Is it Zoe Zadano?
Zoe Sandoval?
Is it Zadano?
Yeah,
She
Zoe
looks
Sandoval.
black. She looks black, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Zoe Sandoval. I know who you're talking
So
about. Yeah.
she played.
She's
Nia
in
Simone.
Westworld.
I can't
Yeah.
remember, but she looks black. But
No,
she,
I'm sorry. She's in the Marvel universe. Go ahead. I know who
Okay.
you're talking about. She's in the
If it-
Marvel. She's in the MCU.
I got to think of the lady's name. I'm not sure if it's the same lady or not.
I'm
But
mispronouncing her last name, but she's in the MCU. She plays one of the characters in there. But go ahead.
okay, she if it's the same lady, but this woman I've seen her in several movies, but she played Nia Simone, and Nia Simone was a darker skinned woman.
Okay.
So they had to darken this lady's face, and this was a black woman or a woman of color. They had to darken her face. Then they put a prosthetic nose on her to make her nose wider.
Oh, geez.
And I'm like, and the thing about it, you took this woman. You could have got so many other actresses to fit in that role. So that's not even a white black issue. That was a black on black issue or a person of color on person of color issue. It was like, why do Hollywood do these things? So if you look at,
we should do a show sometime on movie portrayals and race, because that's a good conversation. That's a conversation that's had a lot of controversy.
but this is
You talk about anything that's a cultural icon movie has had their controversy.
when you take biblical stories, can you imagine growing up if we had saw like
Charlton Heston. I mean,
as a black person, if we had saw Moses as a person of color, if we had saw like Jesus as a person of color, could you imagine how things might have changed throughout history if we took some reality footage?
I know. I know.
How would that have been perceived later? How, like people say right now, what the color of Jesus doesn't matter, and it doesn't matter. But what would have?
But it does.
But it does because
it doesn't. But it does.
So I talked to a person, right? She said that we had the same conversation, and I said, what would the outlook on Black America have been like if things that we saw should have shown people of color in this reality? She said, I walk into church every Sunday, and they have a statue of Mary, Jesus, and Joseph together.
Yeah.
She said, and they look like Europeans.
Yeah.
I said, well, how does that make you feel now? And she said, I never really thought about it till we just had this conversation. Now she's been going to that church since she was a kid.
Yeah.
She's our age. And I'm like, and the question never came to you? That was a question I remember having like 6 years old. Mom, what was Jesus?
Right. Or what color is God's skin? There's a song called "What Color is God's Skin?"
Oh, really?
And it goes, basically, God is all colors.
Yeah.
So, excuse me, I'm losing my voice, but yeah, I mean that's a great question. I remember going into, I was a young man in my 20s and going into an African American church in West Dayton, and all the stained glass had people of color. Everyone, all the biblical characters were people of color, and I kind of did a double take. Then I said to myself, why not? What is the difference? I get it. They probably were people. These people were people of color.
So why is that? Why has that never been addressed? Especially in America. Especially in America. Why is that ever it's
white
glossed over?
Here's an answer. Because white people grew up with that movie. I'm trying to think of the name of it, where they had Jesus. They had the entire life of Christ. I remember watching this. I'm trying to remember the name of the movie. The Greatest Story Ever Told.
Yeah, I've seen that.
I remember liking that as a kid.
Yeah.
Now I look back on it. Everyone has a British accent. Are you kidding me?
Oh.
Like so you want to really make believe that Jesus and his disciples and everyone he came into contact with had a British accent?
That's funny.
That was as white as I am. I mean, come on.
I remember I said I had a video for you. I couldn't remember what it was. You just reminded me when you said British accent. There's a lady who wrote this essay in a magazine, and it was about the culture of hip hop in the South, starting off with the group Outkast and moving forward. And the book was the essay was a really popular, famous essay. So they decided to make it into an audio form. So the publisher, took her essay and had this white guy narrate it. And the narration is supposed to be from a black woman. So he has this fake Jamaican accent.
Oh, come on.
Man, you got to see the video, dude. It's on Twitter. I was like, she is so pissed off because it's going to ruin the project.
Here's a question. I think identity matters sometimes.
Yeah.
Who
matters all the time, man.
portrays the part, who voices a character on a show. It matters sometimes. It matters who the face is behind the office, I think. It just does.
Yeah.
I mean, Anthony Hopkins is a great actor, but he's not gonna play Nelson Mandela.
If
Right?
it was in a book format, an audio book, they probably would.
No, that would not work for me.
It
Come
wouldn't
on.
work. No, I'm just saying, but that's how people do, though. It happens, and it's like, why?
Why?
Look at all the
Why?
story. Look at all the characters in cartoons. Like now, you see more diverse cartoons. They'll use a white person's voice to play a black character, and it doesn't even sound right. And it's like, okay, and so all those things are like, man, it's not that hard to find the appropriate people to put in place.
I know.
It's not hard.
I know.
It's not hard at all. So yeah, so race in America, it has so many tentacles that branch out in every direction that we as a group of people can come together and straighten some of this stuff out. It's just that we have to be willing to accept things and listen and understand why. When somebody say we should do this, the question should say, why should we do that? And the person comes back, well, it's because A, B, and C. Oh, wow, I didn't look at it that way. Well, yeah, that makes sense, doesn't it? Oh, yeah, it makes sense now. And then change it. That could be done for so much stuff because we have to be willing to listen, man. But I know I had another one for you here, man.
We only are halfway through our questions. It's been 40 minutes.
Oh, man, really already?
So I mean, it goes back to our conversation.
Well,
remember we talked about Black Panther?
Yeah. What did we say about Black Panther?
Well, here's the interesting thing for me is like when Black Panther came out and it was a big deal. It's a great movie. Mm-hmm. A lot of people were saying how influential it was and how positive it was for African Americans. And my question was, well, wow, aren't we past this by now? And your answer was, no, we're not.
Well,
we're not. We're still dealing with it. That was kind of a wake-up call to me that said, you know what? Maybe we are still dealing with this stuff in 2020. We're still dealing with racist attitudes. I thought we were beyond this. We're not. We're not beyond this.
Look at the whole story. Look at the whole Marvel comics. How many black people have you seen in Marvel on the screen at the same time?
Well, until Black Panther, not a lot at all.
Okay, so you had Don Cheadle playing what's his name? What was
War Machine? His character's War Machine, but
so he's playing War Machine. You saw
Rhodey,
and then you saw the Falcon every now and then.
The Falcon I like him.
What's his name? I forgot his name.
He's going to be the new Captain America.
Is he really?
Well, see, this is one thing about comic book movies is they're saddled with their past. They're saddled with their sort of 1950s. They're saddled with this 1950s persona, okay, or 60s, okay. So all these characters were white. Captain America was white.
Think about it.
Iron Man is a white guy.
You had more people
saddled with these people who are white guys.
But you had more people of color in the comic books back then.
Did you?
Than you see on the screen now.
Okay. Did you?
Yes.
Like who?
I can't think about it. Did you know who's the girl that came up? Was it a Captain Marvel? Did you know she was supposed to have been a black woman?
Captain Marvel?
Have you heard that before?
No. I heard that. I'm actually not a comic book
I'm not either.
Guru. I have seen all the comic book movies because I think they're good, but I know that there's been several Captain Marvel people. I know there's like four. There's like four different ones, isn't there? I mean, there's several people have taken up that mantle in the comic book universe, and I know that comic books have like such a rich history that gets changed so often.
Yeah, but she because they say right here she was created in 1982. The second Captain Marvel and Marvel's first African American female superhero. That was in 1982.
They had an opportunity to hire an African American female to play that role,
and they passed it up.
Well,
They
that's too
passed
bad.
up. And so
That's too bad.
what I'm saying is this is what you see, because Monica Rambeau was her name, was a fictional character, superhero appearing in American comic books. And that was in October 1982. It was in the Spider-Man comic book, annual number 16. But these are the things that we're talking about. When you can look at your comic book. So if I'm a comic book freak and I see this comic book, I'm like, man, that's a black girl. And I look on the screen, it's a white woman.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, why did they change it? Was it because of the optics? They want, apparently it was, that. But these are the things that happen in TV and in movies. And like I said, that's a whole nother. We can have a whole show just in.
That's a whole show.
That's a whole show by
Anyways,
itself, man.
anyways, I'm sorry to bring up Black Panther, but yeah, that's
No, Black Panther was great because on Netflix there's a new movie coming out called, I can't think of her name, but it was a blues singer, and Chadwick Boseman is in that movie. And
still makes me sad that he passed away.
Very thin. He was very thin in this movie, so I'm not. It had to have been made, of course, while he was sick. But
yes, the Spider-Verse was an awesome movie. Yes.
Yeah, that was, Jeff. That was awesome, man. That was awesome.
My kids love that.
Yeah, that was awesome. But yeah, he's gonna be in this new movie, man. It's on Netflix. It's coming out in December. It's a blues singer. It's called something Big Bottom something. I don't know. It's this blues lady. Viola Davis plays the blues singer.
Okay.
And so
I gotta watch that.
Yeah, they'll show a movie like that, put the all-black cast in it, the old blues and jazz bands. But when it comes down to these positions of power, you want to just see more people and more diversity in these movies. But then that's Hollywood, man. I mean, they got to make their money. And again, when we said, what is white America?
Uh-huh.
That's an effect. That's one of the residue of when we say white America. Because they figure that's what's going to sell. That's what's going to sell more movies, more tickets.
Well, I mean, you mentioned Into the Spider-Verse, and I just wanted to say, like, Miles Morales is the black, an African American Spider-Man. So not your Peter Parker sort of default character. Anyways,
many people miss that because it was a cartoon.
Right.
Think about it. Now, they could have definitely turned that into a regular movie, right?
Yeah.
And it would have got more publicity, more noise would have came from it, more. It would have blew up bigger than it did because of the fact because it would have been you would have had a bigger audience. I didn't see it till it came on. I saw it on cable on Netflix or something, or Amazon Prime. I didn't
see it until it came on streaming. I didn't see it in the theaters.
That's when I saw it, because I'm like, it's going to be I knew it was a cartoon.
Okay.
So,
well, should we get to the next questions, or should we save until tomorrow? I don't know.
We could just run through them right quick so people know what the questions were. Let me pull my Gmail back up here.
So we had you asked me the question: is there a war on white America? Is the war in white America really mainly white men?
Yeah. I hear that all the time.
I don't think so. My answer was no, because I seem to hear a lot of white women have reaction to, just like, maybe even more so.
I hear from
that might not be fair. I don't know, but I hear a lot of white women have reactions as well about race issues, just the same as white men do. And they get defensive just as much as men do. So I think the difference is just being able to listen, to get over the hump. What we need to do is listen to each other.
Yeah. I hear men talk about their job situation. Like, like this one lady. Now, she didn't make it racial. She made it more of the diversity that's coming to Texas. When I first moved here, this worker that was in the building, she was a security guard. And we used to talk every day, this casual conversation. And she said, I'm just upset because all these people are moving to Texas and taking all the jobs. And, so we were talking. I found out she had not had a raise in like over 5 years. And I said, it sounds like you need to get you a new job. And she was like, well, what am I going to get? What am I going to get? I said, go to school and educate yourself. I said, you think the people that are coming to Texas are all uneducated? A lot of people are coming here with some type of background.
Yeah.
So that's why they're getting these jobs. They're not getting the jobs because they just happen to roll up into Texas and want to take your job.
This is what I say when people are like, well, they're going to take our jobs. Like coal miners and things like that. It's like, well, do you see that your industry is phasing out? If you see that, if you know that, if you know that there's a problem in your industry, if you know that you need to update yourself, then do it.
Yeah. But they are complaining.
I don't get it. I don't get it. I really don't get it. I've had to reinvent myself at least 3 times in my life. And so I don't know why people and that was a good thing. I like to learn, for one,
Yeah.
so that's good for me. But I just don't see why people expect that they won't have any adversity or they won't have to do something different in their lives.
Well, go back to that question you mentioned. We were talking about the war on white men.
Well, white men. Okay, so white men.
okay,
Do you feel that white men are the problem in this country?
Well, no,
Are
no,
they? I see a lot of people bang on white men, or white men are the problem.
well,
This and that.
Well, the war on them, like you were saying, the war on white men. I hear them say that they're angry, they're upset, they feel they can't have their way, and it was mainly it was before the Trump era. Trump just gave them that voice to say what they want to say. But the thing about it is that I feel that they do not like to be challenged by women and other people of color. When I say challenged, to check them when they say something inappropriate, or to try to get away with something that no one else can get away with, and you say something about it. You step up to the plate, be like, you know what, that's not cool. Why are you talking to me like this, but you won't talk to him like this? They don't like to be challenged. And I think it goes against that white America complex we were talking about earlier in the show. That I said that there's this thing where maybe 15 years ago, that same white person could say something and a black person would just accept it, or the woman would just accept it. They're not accepting it anymore.
Okay.
And I think that has a lot to do with it, because it always comes down to just like the guy for what bank was it, Wells Fargo. He made a comment about not having enough black people in positions of power within Wells Fargo. And he said, well, there's not enough people that are applying. And that was not true, because you had black people that was in that meeting. And did you know that with Fortune 500 companies, there's a list. There's like a directory of like college graduates and their criteria, their skill sets.
Yeah.
That's for all minorities, that they can go in and pick a minority if they choose to in just about any position in corporate America, because they had to put this platform together so that this is no different than the Rooney Rule, which is a joke now. So it's like there's an excuse.
Yeah.
If you say there's not enough qualified people, that's the typical excuse, because like I hear it in football all the time that, well, there would be more black coaches, but maybe the black coaches weren't that good. Well, how could Eric Bieniemy, who led the Chiefs to the Super Bowl, get passed over for even the Browns job? You know what I'm saying? How? You got Stefanski, he's doing good. They got a good record. But how did you pick him over Bieniemy? I don't get that. He has the number one offense. A Super Bowl, had him ever since Mahomes been there. They've been doing good.
Yep.
He's been a starter. And Bieniemy's been there. So anyway, so you have one now. I hear the comment. Well, you have Mike Tomlin. He's great, but that's one guy that's doing great. If a black coach does bad,
Mike Tomlin's been there for 17 years. I mean, aren't we beyond this by now? I mean, come on.
But Pittsburgh has always done it right. Did you know Pittsburgh had a black quarterback before Terry Bradshaw?
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Joe Gilliam. So I'm saying they've done it right. So that's probably one of the only organizations that has done it right historically. But then if you look at we could go on about that one also.
What was the circumstance behind the folder full of women? Was that a Trump thing at the beginning of his administration?
A folder.
Do you remember that?
Do
you remember that story that somebody had like folders full or like binders full of women, and they were talking about hiring, like a diverse hiring? I want to say that it was at the beginning of the Trump administration that somebody was talking about hiring people, making their staff more diverse. Here's another point.
I don't remember that, man.
Here's another point about striving for diversity. Whenever you do that, it's not that you're not going to have white men still in positions of power. I've never, ever, ever seen, and you see that now in the Biden administration. You see
Oh,
that
that was Mitt Romney, man.
Mitt Romney. Okay.
Mitt Romney's binders full of women are real.
I probably shouldn't have even mentioned that, but I mean the whole just that phrase sounds sounds offensive to me.
Yeah, man.
I mean,
It
it's
was
like, well,
15 pounds,
what's that?
16 ounces, the binder.
It's like, what are you talking about?
I
And,
never heard of that, man. I never knew
you
that.
haven't heard that?
Never heard
Okay.
that. That was for 2018 Senate bid. The infamous
Okay.
binder full of women. Actual physical binders have surfaced.
Here's the thing about striving for diversity: white men are still going to get their chance.
Yeah, I agree.
What do you see now? What do you see now in the Biden administration? Who's the president? A white man, an old white man. Who's the chief of staff? A white man.
Well,
Who? All this like they're trying to like pass like we should be concerned about we're not getting our fair shake or we're losing power. This and that is bull. It is. It's bull.
It is. It is. I mean, you look at his whole. He showed his foreign what do you call it? Foreign ministry campaign or cabinet.
There's still white men.
This only is.
It's a lot of white men.
Well, it's a Hispanic guy that's over Homeland Security, which was really
Yeah.
That was really it was
That's good.
To me. It was good.
That's
but
good.
I thought it was good, but I laughed because that probably pissed off the whole Trump.
Oh God, yeah.
Administration.
Oh God, yeah.
But then
Here's the thing.
Then he has a black woman that's at the U.S. Embassy. So
here's the thing.
Diversity in there, but it's still comprised of more older white men. And
Yeah.
So
I mean, white men are still going to get their shot. Here's the thing about coaching. You mentioned coaching, NFL coaching, NBA coaching. Name a sport. You're still going to have white men.
yeah.
You're still going to have white men.
How you doing, Gregory Battle? Good to see you for joining the show today. Thank you. You're right. You're gonna always have that because that's still going to be that's the power in our country. And so
Yeah, I mean, you mean to tell me you're not going to have white men be an NFL coach anymore?
No, it's not.
Please.
That.
I mean, please.
That.
I know I'm agreeing with you. I'm just saying that like striving for diversity is a good thing.
Well, look at it this way: the privilege of being a white coach in the NFL, you can suck as a coach, and you will get another. No, this is good. Okay, what happened with Dallas for the last? Who was the coach of Dallas?
He was coach for years.
Yeah, he sucked, right?
Yeah.
What is he doing now?
Hell no, I don't know.
He's coaching the
What's he doing?
Giants. He's coaching the Giants. See what I'm saying? He got another job.
He gets another chance.
So
What's Romeo Crennel doing now? He coached the Browns.
Well,
he was bad.
Actually,
What's he doing?
Crennel is the defensive coach. Was a defensive coach for the Texans.
He's not a head coach though.
Yes, he is. He's a
head coach.
They just moved him up to interim head coach with the Houston Texans.
Here you go, right Greg Battle says it's about optics and bringing the money. I gotta partially agree with that.
Well, this is what football players
don't you?
I do, but it's deeper than that. This is what football players are saying. Football players, because I listen to athletes talk about these same conversations. Now, the conversations are from people with money, and they've been in the sport. So they're saying this: an owner is going to bring somebody in that they're comfortable with. That's number one. That could be on your job.
Okay.
For a CEO of a job,
sure.
A manager.
Okay.
So somebody you're comfortable with. That's somebody that's not going to
Biden's cabinet. Sure.
That's not going to rock the boat from your philosophy or your ideology. So if you bring in a white head coach, there's going to be some things that you and that owner are going to see and look at the same way. If you rock the boat with that owner, you probably won't be there. You're going to have some of the same characteristics. So if you get a black coach in there, there's some things that may be different in how he looks at things. And then comes the optics. The optics is last. The first thing is being comfortable. The second thing is that you're going to have the same perspective on many things.
Well, there's a
And-
public perspective, and that plays a big role. But
Well, that's the
what
optics.
should play
We're talking about
a
behind the
bigger role
scenes.
is the players.
But behind the scenes is what I'm saying is their perspective. Behind the scenes, the unsaid things, the things you don't talk about publicly are going to be similar between that coach and that owner.
Okay.
That's one of the, and these are what football players are saying. Football players have said that. This is the concern. It's not being said out there, but there's going to be this. What was it? Who was it? Mike Tomlin. You know what Mike Tomlin's critique was when he first before he got the Pittsburgh job? He was supposed to go to Miami Dolphins first. He should have got hired at
That was
Miami
so
Dolphins.
long ago, I don't remember.
Well, I'm telling you, he's supposed to get hired at Miami Dolphins.
Uh-huh.
You know why he didn't get the job?
Why?
They said Mike Tomlin was too hip hop. What is that? What does that supposed to mean?
Wow. This
Yes,
would have been 2005,
that's why he didn't get the job.
2004.
But Pittsburgh, like I said, Pittsburgh Steelers, I can't stand that team, but they've always done things. They've always done it right. They've always done it right.
I know we're gonna
You know?
perhaps probably start a sports commentator, and I got a lot of things to say about the Steelers and stuff. But I agree with you. The Steelers as an organization,
Yeah.
I have to respect them.
Always, man.
As a kid, I hated them.
Still
I wanted
hate
to
them,
burn
man.
their jerseys, but
No, I never did that.
I
no.
can't. I gotta give it up to them. I gotta respect them.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree with you. And the thing about it, though, like I say, that's like all sports. Like I said, when you get a black owner, that's when I think things are going to really change in sports. When the NFL gets a black owner,
Okay.
and I don't know why there hasn't been one yet, because they got black people with the money.
Okay.
They got groups of people. It's rare that you have just one majority owner, one
Okay.
owner own the whole team. There'd be like a couple of people up under you. So,
What?
all that
Jay-Z.
makes a difference. Jay-Z's a minority owner. He don't do anything for that team. He's a minority owner for the Nets basketball team.
The Nets.
And he's part of the NFL. But look at the road that he has. I mean, I'm
Michael
sure that
Jordan.
Michael Jordan is the minority owner for the Charlotte Bobcats.
Okay.
I give him that, but that's Michael Jordan. I mean, I guess people say, "Well, you got your one. You happy?" You know what I'm saying?
I'm just saying. I'm just trying to think. Does it make a difference?
Does it make a difference? Ask the players and let you. And here's
Does it
some
make a
different
difference for those teams, for the Nets, for the Bobcats? It's sad that's the only teams I can think of.
Well, the Nets has I'm sure it's an Asian owner now for the Nets. I think
I
he's
thought it
an
was
Asian
a Russian oligarch.
guy. I thought it was too, but I just saw this Asian guy the other day. I'm not sure what it. Maybe he might have. He was something in the Nets.
Okay.
I thought it was an Asian guy. There was a Russian guy that ran it, but I'm not sure exactly. Don't get me lying, man.
Okay.
But does it matter? Like I say, ask the players how they feel about it. And see, I post I post the videos from I Am Athlete. Typically once a week, I watch the show with ex-football players,
Okay.
and this is like
Yeah, you showed me that. Okay.
This is like the realest insight I've had of being how NFL players feel about what's going on. I mean, all the way down to Donald Trump calling them SOBs. They talk about this stuff like, man, I'm a player on that field and I feel marginalized. They talk about the money. I mean, I heard football players who were making, these are people in the millions of dollars, 30 million in the bank. And they're saying that they voted for Biden because they know that he wants to give the wealthy a tax cut. They're willing to take the tax cut.
Yeah.
So
because they believe that's what's fair.
They want to do what's fair for
Yeah.
the people who don't have. And so they keep it real, man. And if you're talking to people on the inside, you have a better perspective of what's going on. Because we go from the outside who are not athletes, who never played the game at that level, never had those relationships. And it's all about relationships.
Uh-huh.
So color does make a difference, but it's still about relationships. And you say somebody
Okay.
good as Tomlin, who is he molding in Pittsburgh? I don't know.
I don't know. Okay, so there's two questions that I want to make sure we get to tonight before we log off here. So one of the things is, do you Do you think most white people truly understand what systematic racism is? That was a question to me that you had,
Right.
and I don't. I don't think that most white people truly understand systematic racism.
Why
They
is
think
that?
of they think of well, for one, anything with the word racism in it, they're going to say, "Well, I'm not racist," or "Racism doesn't exist today." For one, and so for them, for most white people, they believe that systems are fair because systems are fair for them because when they were raised, they see it as fair because
Right.
they're they're seeing the world from myopic eyes. Okay,
Right.
so they if it worked for them, then it should work for everyone. It does work for everyone. Okay, and so they believe that minorities have had advantages because of situations like we had talked about because of affirmative action. So they see that, well, we've had affirmative action, we had it for decades, and they say that, well, we're beyond racism now. Slavery was 150 years ago. They always go back to slavery. And I want to
Right.
I'm talking they as in a typical white a typical white person. I don't know what the percentages would be, but this is how they view things. They say, well,
Mhm.
slavery ended in 1865. They say, well, but what a lot of white people don't understand is what everything that happened since the Emancipation Proclamation, since the
Right.
end of the Civil War. That's the issue.
Yeah.
Um, yes, it ended a long time ago. However, you can't tell me that in the generation that is above us, okay, that things were fair.
Yeah.
And so, what do you think is going to happen to their children and grandchildren when their starting line was so far behind the rest of ours? That is why there's a wealth gap. That is why
Yeah.
that is systematic racism. That's now my question to that is, um, I struggle with what when we say systematic racism because I'm like, well, can we eradicate systematic racism if we eradicate racism from people? So if systematic racism exists, I used to think this that systematic racism exists because we have racist people in positions of power.
Not necessarily.
However,
Not necessarily.
however, maybe that's false. Maybe the system is the problem.
We got to change the
Maybe
system.
maybe you have people that are open-minded, that are enlightened, as you say, in positions of power, but maybe the system is still skewed.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
What's your answer?
Well, like I said, it's changed policy. I'll give you an example. I always got to give you an example. The 80s and 90s, many black people were arrested for minor possession of marijuana, correct?
Yes.
Misdemeanor charges. Some people did a lot of time in jail because they started to become felonies. And what happened to those people when they got out of jail? From a job perspective, they couldn't get jobs. They
Nope.
couldn't get anything. So right now,
They still can't. They still can't though.
Now, right now, most of your majority of the opioid epidemics, addicts right now, are white America
Yes.
with opioids. Okay, they're not losing their jobs. I'm not gonna say they're not losing their jobs. A lot of them have been to treatment and was able to keep their jobs or get back into the workforce. It's not a criminal record that they have. It only becomes a criminal record when they commit crimes with the opioids, selling it, trafficking. You rob a bank, you kill somebody. It's a criminal act. Possession, unless I'm mistaken, you're not getting the same type of treatment that person who had the small amount of marijuana had back in the 80s and 90s. Even a small amount of crack at that time. There's people still in jail because they drove in a car with somebody who was arrested. So that's a privilege. That's where the system has changed, because think about it. The system was one way, and then all of a sudden this epidemic hit a certain community, and all of a sudden you have sympathy. You have this, let me embrace you and give you a hug. What changed there? Why was it different? What was different? Now you're legalizing marijuana. Now you really look racist. You're legalizing something now that black people are still in jail for today.
Right.
Today, they're still in jail for some of these crimes.
Yep.
So you talk to a black person who have been through that lifestyle or been affected with their families because of drugs or whatever, and you saw that. I mean, people make mistakes. Things happen. People commit crime. They get rehabilitated. They come out. Then there's those that have been in the system over and over again for drugs. Where's the rehab? The proper rehab, like you do with these other people right now.
Well, that's a big issue. I think that that's a great point. That we're legalizing things now that people are in prison for currently. So it takes somebody to look at that and to change that.
Well, it's not just
So,
somebody; it's a group of people. It's like everybody from the
well, it could be
judicial
as simple
system.
as a judge. Like one judge can make a big
There
difference.
have been judges that made changes. We're talking. There has to be a across the board change. Right now, if you was to release everyone that just had possession of marijuana and you let them out of jail right now, that didn't commit an actual crime other than having
Right.
possession of marijuana, and
Right.
you let all those people out right now.
Yeah, let's do it.
Well, think about it. What happened in Florida when you let people out? Gave people the right to vote that were ex criminals. What happened?
I don't know what happened.
Didn't they try to make a law that they had to pay a fine to vote? That's
Did
what
they?
LeBron James. Yeah, the law. The people.
Oh, I
of
guess
Florida,
I'm ignorant about that. I need to
the
look that
citizens
up.
of Florida. The citizens of Florida voted on a law that allowed ex-cons to be able to vote. You served your time and everything. You completed
That should happen.
time.
That should happen.
You're a citizen that can vote.
Well,
The governor of Florida, DeSantis, went on ahead and changed the law. Changed the law that said now that you're an ex-con, you got to pay X amount of dollars in order to vote. So LeBron James partnered with Michelle Obama, and they went and paid all those fines. They worked with these organizations to pay the fines for these people so they can vote.
that's great.
That's
I
the
mean,
that's
this
the, that's the stuff. So if you let all these people out of prison right now that have marijuana possession, there's going to be some pushback.
Exactly.
What happens is the voting shift changes now. The people that are allowed to vote change. All that's a whole other conversation again.
Yeah, that's a whole other conversation. We need to have we should have a conversation about criminal justice reform, and we could talk about these issues. I think that's a great issues. There's some things that
private prisons. What about that? That's another thing, man. Come on.
We profit as a country. We profit over having people imprisoned.
Yeah.
Having them pay to vote is a prime example.
Yeah.
I mean, what's that money going to go to? It goes into some sort of public coffer, right? So we are profiteering over people who have been incarcerated.
Yeah.
That happens everywhere. That happens in all of our communities. We are profitizing criminal people in criminal.
What's our last one, man? So we can go, man, because we got to be back on the show.
We should have Greg on here.
Yeah, Greg, be on the show tomorrow, man. We're gonna be on 9:00 a.m. your time. Actually, this is supposed to be a prep for that show. We're going through the whole thing now.
We're going on and on. So my last point is your last question here was about how do we connect to people with differing views. You're specifically with differing views.
People. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Your question was specifically how do you connect with white people of different views. I'm saying, how do you connect with anyone with different views anymore? I don't know. I don't have a good answer for that. I don't know how you do that anymore.
Well, I think everyone else, every other ethnic background will talk about race.
Except for white people?
Except you gave me that example. You told me yourself. Like, you can ask about any black person.
That's true.
They've had the conversation
I don't know.
at the dinner table.
I'm here. I'm talking about it. I'd like to talk about it.
No, I'm saying, but we've talked about it with our families at the dinner table. We'll talk about a racial situation.
Yeah.
I know you were saying, well, we don't talk about race at the table. Or it's like, to me, it's like you talk about any other race. I mean, any other conversation. It could be about race. It could be about politics. It could be about what's going on in your city, what happened at work. But I think black people are willing to talk about it because it happens a lot in their life. When I say
it happens,
not blatant. I'm not saying blatant things happen. It's just little subtle things happen in your day that you bring up at the dinner table and say, wow, this is what happened to me today.
Well, one of the prime examples of having a race conversation is having that discussion with specifically your son. If you are an African American dad and you have a son, you're going to sit down with them. You've had this conversation, I know you have, Mars, with your
Yeah.
son, didn't you? When he was a teenager, you had
Oh,
you
yeah.
would say like, look, if you ever get pulled over by the police, and then you have your 10 minutes with him, right?
Yeah. My dad
So
did the same thing for
that
me.
so right there is an example of something that you're comfortable talking about it because you have talked about it before.
Yeah.
I never sat my son down and said, look, if you get pulled over by the cops, make sure you put your hands on the wheel and this and that. I didn't do that.
Yeah.
So it's not
How do you feel
something.
about that? How do you feel about that? I mean, right now that we talked about, you said you never had to do that for your son.
No.
What's your like that emotion you feel right now? What is that? There's an emotion right there.
A little bit of shame. I mean, I feel a little bit of shame.
You shouldn't be shamed. Why would you feel ashamed? You should feel ashamed. You should feel
I feel
ashamed of
bad. I
something
feel
you did
bad that
never do.
that's something that is an example of privilege that I assume that my son will be okay because why shouldn't he be?
Right. That's how we all should be. We all should feel that way. But what I'm saying, Darren, is you shouldn't feel ashamed by that. What I'm saying is that you realize that there's a difference, but you shouldn't feel ashamed about it. And I like the fact that you're willing to go out and create change to get that out the way. But
Yeah.
that's the reason why some people don't talk about it because they feel ashamed about it. They're like, well, dang, that's embarrassing that my
I think you're
son.
right.
You shouldn't have to feel that way, but it does. You
I
feel
think
that
that's
way, and that's real for you. That's a
I think
real
that I
feeling
think
that
that's the
you have.
reason why some white people don't want to talk about race is because
Right.
they feel guilty about it. They feel
But
guilty. So they don't talk about it.
that's what I'm saying. So when you get in your mind to say, okay, why am I guilty? You got to go deep. You got to find out, why are these feelings there? Why is it that black people get so frustrated at every bit of racism? Because they're tired of seeing it.
Right.
White people feel ashamed because they're tired of hearing about it, and they had nothing to do with it. The people that are here.
I mean,
A lot of them.
maybe you did have something to do with it.
Well,
Maybe long ago we had the question of like, well, what if he said something long ago? What if he had a racist attitude
Yeah,
when you were
that's
growing
possible.
up that she didn't know any better and you feel bad about it?
Well, that person probably. Well, it depends if that person's the one that feels ashamed or not. If they're still doing it, or how about to cut us off, man? I'm sleepy now. We've been on a while.
Sorry.
No,
All right.
no, don't be sorry,
Well,
man. This was fun.
I mean,
love doing this.
I think that's one reason why I think white people don't have this conversation because they feel some responsibility for it, even if it's just sort of a passive. The sin of omission, the sin of not doing anything sometimes is
Silence.
also a sin. Like if you see racism and you don't do anything about it, that's actually that's a bad thing still.
Yeah.
Okay, you don't have to agree with it, you don't have to participate in it, but even if you passively sort of benefit from it, if you passively sort of let it happen among your friends, among your coworkers, then that's wrong.
Yeah.
And a lot of white people, I think, have let it pass, have let it slide. They say, well, my neighbor who I have cookouts with during the summer, I might see him once a week, or we might hang out on a Friday evening. He's got a lot of racist attitudes, but he's cool. We hang out. We watch the game. All right.
I don't hang
I
out.
think
with
I think a
anybody
lot of
like
I
that.
think a lot of white people know someone like that.
I'm sure they
Okay,
do.
it might be one person out of 50. It might be one person out of 20. But I know people like that, and we need to start confronting them and say, "Look, this is not cool.
I knew older black
This is
people
not
that was
cool."
really prejudiced to white people because of their experience. The hurt that they've endured over the years is why they became had a hardened heart toward white people. And they were older people, like 70s and 80s right now. And I understand their pain. And it saddens me that they're missing out on so many opportunities because of the hardened heart that they have. But can I blame them for having a hardened heart when they endured something that I never had to endure before?
Yeah.
I never had to experience it. So it's sad, but these type of conversations need to go forward a lot of times. And we need to just sit back and not be afraid to talk and talk with respect. And I encourage people to get on the show with us, man. People who have different views than what I have, talk to me so we can find a common ground. Because if you think about it, we all want the same thing. Everybody, all of us that are really, if we're like middle class, the average American, we all want the same thing. And why not work together to go for that same goal together?
Yeah.
Than to fight over stuff that we have the ability to change. Systemic racism can change. It can change. And we have enough people to change it. We do.
Amen. Yeah, we do.
So,
well, join us for the conversation tomorrow morning. Thank you for listening in to us tonight, those of you that viewed this. And we'll see you tomorrow at 9 Eastern, 8 Central Time. But you could always check us out later. You could always comment on our stuff later. We do
we're on YouTube
like to
too,
see
man.
we do like to see your comments, and we check them out. We do read them. So
yeah. And we're on what is it? We're also on YouTube. We're on Facebook here, so you can. Some people don't have YouTube, don't have Facebook that friends of yours, or you want to share this conversation with them. You can definitely give them the YouTube link as well, which is the bottom line on YouTube. And we'll catch you in the morning.
All right. Take care. Peace.
Take care, man. Peace.